G'day, it's Chris. Welcome back to the shed. This is Flat Tank Journey, and in the background you can see my little 1927 BSA Wedge Tank Deluxe. And she's up and about. Well, not about, but she's up on all wheels. In this episode I got the front wheel back, I put the front end back in, and I finally got around to finishing up the seat, or fitting the seat at the very least. It's a little bit warm in the shed today. I've been perspiring, but I'm unpacking some nuts and bolts that I just got in from the UK, and that's a good result too. Cycle threads hard to find here in Australia. Enjoy the episode. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm back from the wheel builders. He did a good job. Just tidied up the front wheel. I had to move it over 3 or 4 mil, moving the rim on the hub, and we've got it centered up. I'm going to drop this front end back together and see if we can get it to look okay. They must be for the top. These ones are for the bottom. So this is how I do it. I put the spring in first and then get the side arms on and loosely tighten them up. I'll loosely tighten them up, bit of a misnomer. Get them started. And then you can roll the whole lot back. With a bit of luck, everything goes together really smoothly, and it has. So I'm really pleased with that, because gee, they can be a pig to put together. I'm going to put the bolts in and tighten everything up, and then we'll come back and have a look. So they're a little bit fiddly to put together. I never have a great run. This is one of the best runs I've had for ages putting these together. I find getting the spring in to be really, really difficult. And of course, these arms, this arm and this arm, are threaded. And on some bikes, they got left-handed nuts and that on. Not on this one though. I've got the nuts just sitting on the side of the bike lift where I took them off from, and so hopefully they all go back where I think they came from. I might replace the nuts with new ones at a later stage, but for now they don't look too bad, but they're a bit beaten up, and so are the arms. Might nickel plate them. Now, I haven't done those up super tight. They're nipped up, but they don't need to be ridiculously tight or anything like that. The top nut is a different size. I'll grab a spanner and I'll just do up that nut on the top of the spring. There we go. Front end's back together, wheels are on. I reckon it looks a treat. Let's get off the tripod, have a walk around, have a good look at it, and see what a few $100s does. Here it is. Hands are a bit shaky, but I am excited. The front end's back in. There's a little bit of dust on the frame, but the frame overall looks really smart. Front end looks good. Everything lines up, everything looks straight. Our illustrious front wheel, I think it's a triumph. Well, it's a success, not a triumph wheel. What's the hub? No idea. Brake plate? Think it's BSA. Royal Enfield or parts from India in the brakes, and Bantam brake linings. The rims, certainly reproduction rims that came in from India, and they fit really nicely. It's a bit hard to video in the front wheel. The axle I made, the bearings are new, and I think the rims have been a tremendous success. I paid $100 for them, including freight to be sent from India. That's $100 for the pair. So you couldn't expect much more. Of course, they were chrome, and if you didn't see that, go back to the episode where I'm looking at the rims and, lamenting how they look a little bit. The powder coating, I think it was Robert that suggested, painting them black, they'd look good. They look better than good. They look fantastic. Front end, main frame, rear, and the rear wheel. I still haven't completely resolved the sprocket issue, but you know what? The rear wheel looks a treat too. Very, very pleased to get it up to this stage. There's a long way to go, but gee, that's a success. So 5/16 is the size of the bolt that goes through where the seat mounts. These on the seat frame were a hair too small. Wouldn't quite go through. Now, I don't know whether that's rust or paint or powder or what it is, but wouldn't quite go through. So you saw me, I just used a carbide burr on the drill and slowly whittled away until the burr would go through. One of the best swap meet purchases I've had. A pair of burrs, like $7 or $8 each. So cheap, but so good. Let's have a look at this on the frame. So the object of the game is for you to see the bike, not me. You don't need to see me. These came with the frame. Little, I suppose they're serrated seat clamps is what I'd call them. And on a bicycle, they went each side on the inside of a bicycle seat. And I don't know whether there should be a serrated washer here or whether this has got serrations and I just can't see them. But I would have thought those serrations are to grab onto that. So let's see if I can get all this done up, or put on anyway, without making too much of a mess. Will it all line up? That's a little bit fiddly, especially as you're trying to video it at the same time. And when the frame sags, because you're leaning on it, it pulls it apart. Gonna need to go around, try and line that up. Now, all that was holding that out was that little serrated washer not lining up. Now, I suspect that's where the seat goes. Somewhere there. It probably pulls forward a little bit, pardon me. So that it balances better. Doesn't balance super well, but I suspect that's somewhere where it goes. And that'll look all right. Let's have a closer look at that before I knock the starter out, put some threads on it and get some nuts. There you go, you're looking in at the throttle side of the seat. Just get that to focus a bit better, and you can see the large serrated piece goes around the seat frame, and the stud or the bolt will go through the whole thing. You can see I've just relieved, you can see the shiny pieces, and you can see where it'll sit, and the seat will sit, well, hopefully something, needs to sit flat for me. That's tilted slightly forward, but that'd be a pretty good outcome, I think. I should have had the seat powder coated when I got everything else done, and I probably should have done that before I put the seat springs on, because now they're prone to breaking when you're pulling them off. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll just get the whole thing blasted and acrylic or enamel black the whole thing, just all in one. Let's have a look at the other side. No real difference over here. Well, actually, it's identical. But you can see what the principle of it might be. Now, I think my large behind on here will cause the seat to tilt backwards. But it is what it is. It will be really, really good. I've got to get a cover for it. And I don't know what I'll do about that, but I'll do something. And there's that little bit of bar stock, 5/16 that I probably pulled out of the scrap bin, and I've given that a little clean up on the wire wheel and wire brush one of my fingers. I'm going to cut a thread on each end, not super serious, and then we'll see if we can put it back together, get a couple of nuts and spring washers onto it. Rightio, I'm just finishing up that thread on the shaft, and I've been babbling away about it being 5/16. In fact, it's 7/16. Sorry about that. I've had it in soft jaws, which is just a couple of bits of aluminium in the vise. You have to tighten the vise pretty hard, but it doesn't leave galling in the middle and little burrs that you have to polish off and that sort of mess. So they've come up all right. Come onto the bench and we'll find some nuts and see if we can find some hardware to go with it. So excuse the mess on the bench. I've been wood turning and the wood shavings go everywhere. So I just got a new stock of cycle thread stuff in from the UK, and it was all come from Wright's Automotive or Wright Engineering or something like that. I've got one 7/16 nut, which is a size they never send, which is a bit of a pain in the bum. So it looks like Chris could have to make a couple of nuts. 7/16 is an uncommon size, so we might have to make a couple. But there we go. I've got one. That's a pain in the bottom. So I think I've got 300 pieces for 150 Australian dollars. It's a lot, but gee, if you haven't got it, you go back to using a mishmash of other threads and bits and pieces that I don't really want to do. So it is what it is. I'll whip up a couple of nuts and we'll push on. All right, confession time. I cheated with the nuts. I just took probably a 3/8 nut, a couple of them, new ones, bored them out and cut the 7/16 thread in them. So they're a tiny bit undersized, I suppose. Is it a big deal? You tell me. It'll be all right. I've got some largish washers. I kind of wish washers had a smaller backing and a bigger hole, but I suppose that doesn't disperse the pressure. Let's see if I can get this on here without cussing and fighting and making a mess. Scoot my way past the rally that's still sulking in the corner because its gearbox is no good. Another story. Now it's a little bit fiddly to slide that serrated piece in. Just doesn't want to go in super well. I suppose it does need to be a firm fit. Just loosen the nut, push it through a bit further. Hit it through a bit further. But that looks like it's going to work pretty good. I even remember to pick up the right spanners before I settled in to make video. Now, of course, the reality is you're not tightening up both sides independently. They're tightening up at the same time. I was just trying to get the right amount of stud hanging through each nut because it would annoy me later on. And there you go. I don't think that looks too bad. And is probably how it looked. I emphasise the probably. I can't see another way that it fits. Let's have a wander in, get you some closer footage. Right, here's a better look for you. I never know whether you've had a great angle on the tripod. You can see the nut and the washer and the stud, and it's all tightened up. And I've got it sitting flat as I look at it. Now, it may be tilted slightly back or forward, but the reality is it actually doesn't matter. It sits pretty well, and when you look at it, I think that's how it has to sit. And it looks pretty good. There you go. That's the episode for this week. I'd been a bit blue about the wedge tank, if I'm honest, but in the real world, this is what happens. It's taken time to get the wheels right, but gee, I think they look right, and I hope you agree with me. I think they'll be spectacular. And no, they're not original, and that's okay with me. I live with it. It'll be right. This is possibly the first time this bike's been up on wheels in 30 or 40 years. And the seat's back on, and I'm going to start putting some more bits and pieces back on. Hey, if you like, hit the subscribe button. Send me a comment. Love to hear from you. Those that watch every week, cheers. Thanks for doing that. Makes me feel good. Have a good one.